Hey, night owls, tonight we're digging into something that's equal parts fascinating, exhausting, and flat out horrifying. Why you wouldn't survive a single day as an Egyptian pyramid builder. I know. When you hear ancient Egypt, you probably think gold sarcophagi, mysterious tombs, and maybe a few aliens if you've watched enough late-night documentaries. But let me stop you right there. Because behind every majestic pyramid is a workforce of sunburnt, blistered, overworked humans dragging massive limestone blocks through the desert while sweating through their linen loincloths and quietly questioning every life decision they've ever made. And here's the kicker. This isn't just some exaggerated fantasy. This is history based on what archaeologists, scholars, and actual evidence have shown us about what life was really like during pyramid construction. Spoiler alert, it sucked. Forget what the movies told you. There's no divine blessing, no alien tech. Just ropes, ramps, beer for breakfast, and a management style best described as scream first, heal later. Before we get into it, if you're into weird, uncomfortable history that school absolutely didn't prepare you for, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss another deep dive into historical suffering. And hey, drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. Preferably somewhere with air conditioning, shade, and zero risk of sandblasting your eyeballs before lunch. All right, let's head back 4,500 years and welcome to your new job. Spoiler, you're not going to like it. Chapter 1. Wake up and worship. Imagine this. You've just opened your eyes in ancient Egypt around 2500 BCE. The good news, you're alive. The bad news, you're a pyramid builder. Not an overseer, not a priest, and definitely not a pharaoh. You're at the very bottom of the social ladder, essentially human muscle in a linen kilt, destined to spend your day hauling massive blocks under a sun that seems determined to roast you alive, and your day begins before the first light of dawn. No alarm clock, no gentle wake-up tones, just the harsh shout of a supervisor, angry as if your very existence offends him. You jolt upright from your sleeping mat, a thin layer of papyrus over packed dirt, with a stiff neck, sand in your ears, and the unpleasant reminder that your back still aches from yesterday. Your home is a shared workers' barracks near the construction site. You and about a dozen other men sleep side by side, shoulder to shoulder, with zero privacy and 100% body odor. There's one small pot to relieve yourselves in, which is already full. Someone knocked it over during the night. Of course they did. There's no bathroom, no sink, no toothbrush. Hygiene here means rinsing your mouth with warm beer and hoping for the best. You pick dried mud off your arms and blink through the crust in your eyes. A beetle scurries past your foot. You make eye contact. It seems better rested than you, but there's no time to dwell on it. You've got worship to do. Before you can spend the next 12 hours getting sandblasted and yelled at, you're expected to offer your respects to the gods. Ancient Egypt isn't just a kingdom. It's a divine machine powered by rituals, incense, and the unspoken fear that if someone forgets to chant correctly, the Nile will dry up and you'll all perish. So you trudge barefoot across the camp to the workers' shrine. It's nothing fancy, just a small stone altar with some worn carvings, a few offerings, and a priest who smells like incense and passive aggression. You kneel, press your forehead to the floor, and chant a short prayer to Ptah, the god of craftsmen, asking for strength, safety, and maybe one day without sunstroke. You also throw in a few desperate words to Hathor for protection, because the site medic only knows two treatments: wrap it in linen and hope you don't die. Once your group finishes mumbling through the morning ritual, the priest lights a bundle of herbs and walks through the crowd, waving the smoke over everyone like Febreze for your soul. It doesn't help. Then comes the offering, a bowl of beer, a bit of bread, and maybe a dried fig if the temple's having a good week. You don't get to eat it. That's for the gods. You just watch it sit there and pretend it smells better than the person next to you. Afterward, you're given a small charm, usually a carved piece of bone or clay shaped like a god or a protective symbol. You tuck it into your belt like it's going to keep you from being crushed by a 2-ton slab of limestone. It won't, but it makes you feel slightly less cursed. Now you head back to your barracks to prepare for work. This means tying a piece of linen around your waist, wrapping a strip of cloth over your head to block the sun, and maybe slathering some oil on your skin if you're lucky enough to have any left. You grab your work gear, a wooden mallet, a copper chisel that's already dull, and a water skin filled with More beer. That's right, beer. Breakfast is beer and bread again. The beer is thick, flat and warm. It tastes like barley soup someone forgot to strain. But it's safer than water, which is full of parasites and regret. You drink it slowly. Your stomach grumbles. You chew your bread. A coarse, rock-like wedge made from emmer wheat and sand. Yes, sand. Because the grinding stones used to mill the grain, leave behind enough grit to wear down your teeth like you've been eating gravel for sport. You choke it down. You don't complain. No one complains. There's no point. You step outside. The sky is still dark, but already it's hot. The kind of heat that doesn't just sit on your skin, it seeps into your bones. By the time the sun peeks over the horizon, you're already sweating. Your linen is damp. Your scalp itches. Your eyes sting from the wind-blown dust. A foreman yells. Everyone lines up. You're assigned to Quarry Team 3 today. That's the one hauling limestone from the main trench to the sledges. You wince. That's one of the worst rotations. Deep pits, little shade, constant yelling. Someone groans next to you. Someone else coughs, deep and wet. The guy behind you is limping. Doesn't matter. There's no sick day, no PTO, no workers' comp. You get in line, you march. It's a half-mile walk to the quarry across rough stone and ankle-deep sand. The sun is now fully up. Your back is slick. Your feet are already sore. The overseer rides a donkey beside the column of workers, holding a long stick and a look of deep inherited bitterness. He shouts instructions you've heard 1,000 times. Pace, posture, no slouching, no talking. Carry your tools. Look alive. It's not even breakfast time, and you already want to lie face down in the sand and let Ra cook you into jerky. Finally, you reach the quarry. The sight is both impressive and deeply depressing. A massive pit carved out of the earth, lined with men hammering, hauling and swearing under their breath. The walls echo with the clank of metal on stone. Dust hangs in the air like a fog made of powdered misery. Every surface is hot. Every breath feels like sandpaper. You descend into the pit. You take your place. You lift your mallet and you start your day. You've already prayed. You've already eaten. And you've already sweat through your body weight. Now you just have to survive the next 12 hours of dust, sun, shouting and stone. Welcome to the job. Chapter 2. Breakfast of Regret. You've just finished the morning ritual. The gods have been appeased. You've been smoked in herbs, dusted in ash, and handed a protective charm shaped like a beetle, which, ironically, is about the same size as the one you saw crawl out of your sleeping mat 2 hours ago. Now it's time for breakfast, or, as it's known in ancient Egypt, the first step toward gastrointestinal disappointment. You head back to the worker camp, nothing more than a scatter of mud brick huts and open-air shelters thrown together to keep the sun out of your eyes while offering no actual comfort. There are maybe 1,000 labourers here, all crammed into quarters that smell like heat stroke, body odour and last night's fart stew. There's no cafeteria, no buffet, no cinnamon rolls or sizzling bacon. Your breakfast area is a flat patch of sand near the storage tent, where a few workers squat around fire pits still warm from the night shift. Smoke curls up into the already heating sky. Someone is poking at a pot of barley like they're hoping it'll magically turn into eggs. It won't. You get in line. No trays, no napkins, no eye contact. A man with a missing tooth and a cloth wrapped around his head ladles something into a crude bowl and hands it to you without a word. You take it. You do not ask what's in it. You already know. Barley, water. Maybe a few old lentils if the gods are smiling, which, judging by the way your back feels, they definitely are not. This is beer porridge, thick, warm and sour. The barley hasn't been fully fermented, so it's technically nutritious, if your definition of nutritious includes being mildly intoxicating and tasting like someone rinsed a sock in it first. You dip your fingers in, there are no utensils. You scoop, you slurp, you try not to gag. You taste grit, probably from the sand that got into the grain mill. Your molars crunch, not on food, on stone dust. This is normal. Ancient Egyptian bread and gruel is made from emmer wheat, ground with a flat stone. That stone grinds down over time and deposits a fine, sandy residue into the flour. You can't see it, but you can feel it, grinding your teeth down day after day until chewing starts to feel like biting down on old gravel. You chew slower. The man next to you hiccups and wipes his mouth on his arm. He's missing 3 teeth. You figure he's just further along in the process. There's also bread, if you're lucky. A small loaf, flat and hard, shaped more like a brick than a bun. It's dense, dry, and looks like it was baked 3 weeks ago, possibly by accident. You tear at it with your fingers. It resists. You gnaw on a corner and feel your jaw pop. It tastes like flour, ash, and maybe onion. That last one might be in your imagination. Either way, this is your only solid food until midday. If it feels like the kind of meal someone invented while trying to punish themselves, that's because it kind of is. See, ancient Egyptian pyramid workers weren't slaves. They were paid labourers, state-sponsored, with housing, medical care and food. But let's not get carried away. That food, it's barely edible by modern standards. It's not meant to delight. It's meant to keep you alive just long enough to haul another limestone block up a ramp before collapsing. There's also beer. Lots of beer. But don't get too excited. This isn't your crisp German lager or artisanal microbrew. This is cloudy, chunky, warm liquid bread made from half-fermented barley mash. It's thick enough to chew and smells vaguely of vinegar and damp hay. You drink it because it's safer than water, and because if you didn't drink it, you'd pass out from dehydration before noon. Children drink it, elders drink it, you drink it. It's practically a food group. And if you drink too fast, it'll come back up, which is fine because your stomach is mostly empty anyway. You sit with your fellow workers under a makeshift canopy. It's woven from palm fronds and flaps gently in the wind, which does absolutely nothing to lower the temperature or get rid of the smell. Around you, men burp, cough, sneeze, and slurp their way through the same mush you're eating. The same mush you'll eat again in 6 hours and again at night. Someone tries to lighten the mood by telling a joke about a foreman who got cursed for stealing temple onions. No one laughs. Someone else talks about a neighbour who developed a mysterious rash after eating from a cracked beer jug. He's not dead, just twitchy. You shift your weight on the ground and feel your knee pop again. You try not to think about how long today's shift will be. You try not to look at the sun already climbing. You try not to notice how the shadows are shrinking and the heat is rising and you've got 10 more hours of lifting, dragging, climbing and not dying. The bread gets stuck in your teeth. You try to wedge it loose with your fingernail. The nail cracks. You shrug. That's just life now. Across the yard, a man is already passed out under a cart. He probably drank too much beer, or too little water, or just gave up. No one wakes him. He'll come around. Or he won't. Either way, someone else will take his place. You finish your meal. You drink the last of the beer. It's warm now. You don't care. Your body needs the calories. The alcohol is just a bonus. You stand slowly, your knees protest, your spine lets out a quiet warning. You hand your bowl back to the man by the fire. He doesn't look up. He's already ladling out the next portion. You wipe your hands on your tunic. It's time. Back to the quarry. Back to the dust and the noise and the God's forsaken heat. As you walk, your stomach churns. The food is sitting there, confused. Your body is unsure if you've eaten or been poisoned. Either way, it's too late. You're full, sort of. You're awake mostly, and you're late. Your overseer is waiting, so you pick up your mallet, your chisel, your fraying water skin full of semi-liquid beer, and you get moving. Breakfast is over. Regret begins. Chapter 3. The Walk to the Quarry. Your breakfast is barely settled, if you can even call it that, when the foreman's horn blows across the camp like a war cry made of pure resentment. That means one thing. It's time to move. You shuffle to your feet, which are now caked in a fresh layer of sun-warmed sand. You grab your tools, a chipped copper chisel, a mallet that's seen better centuries, and your water skin filled with warm, beer-like sadness, and fall into line. The walk to the quarry begins. There's no convoy, no shade, just a slow-moving river of human misery making its way across a landscape designed by someone who clearly hated feet. Sand stretches in every direction, broken only by the occasional rock, scorpion, or donkey skull. If hell had a beach, it would look like this. Your destination is visible in the distance, barely. A yawning pit carved out of the limestone earth, surrounded by wooden scaffolds, half-collapsed sledges, and the vague smell of regret. Between you and that pit lies nearly 2 miles of blistering sun, shifting dunes, and terrain that feels like it's actively trying to erase your existence. The heat hasn't even peaked yet, and your skin is already starting to roast under your linen kilt and head wrap. There's no breeze, no clouds, just the sun looming directly overhead like it's personally offended by your presence. You walk in silence because talking takes energy, and energy is a precious resource like clean water, unbroken tools, and medical care that doesn't involve chanting and honey. The man beside you has a limp. He says nothing. His foot drags a little more with each step, but no one offers to help. That would slow down the group. And if you fall behind, you get motivated by the overseer's stick, which, by the way, is not symbolic. It's a literal stick, and it hurts. Halfway to the quarry, the sweat starts to pool at the base of your spine. Your shoulders ache from holding your tools. Your sandals, if you're lucky enough to have any, are full of hot grit. You try to adjust the strap, it snaps. Barefoot it is. The sand burns, but complaining is pointless. There are 50 men behind you who are just as miserable, and the foreman is riding a donkey that looks like it's one missed meal away from collapsing. He shouts occasionally, mostly reminders to keep pace. Sometimes insults. Once in a while, a threat involving jackals. You pass a landmark, a dead tree. Or at least what used to be a tree. Now it's a stick. You pass another, a pile of bones. No one mentions it. You stop briefly to drink. The beer is now hot. It smells worse than it tastes, which is saying something. You gulp it down anyway. You feel bloated. You feel dizzy. You keep walking. The sun rises higher, the shadows shrink. The back of your neck is sunburnt, and you're not even at the quarry yet. A man ahead of you stumbles. He drops his tools. He wheezes. The line slows. The overseer rides up. He asks if the man can walk. The man nods. The overseer nods. Then he hits him anyway. Just once. Just enough to remind everyone what happens if you're too slow. The man picks up his tools and limps onward. The line moves again. You tighten your grip on your mallet. You keep moving. You pass another group, men coming back from the quarry with carts full of broken tools, blisters, and 1,000-yard stares. You trade glances. They look like you. You look like them. You nod silently. No words needed, just pain recognition. You reach a narrow stone path cut between two dunes. This is the worst part. No wind, just heat trapped between two walls of sand, bouncing between the stone and your skull. You start to sweat from places you didn't know had sweat glands. Your arms go slick. Your tunic sticks to your ribs. Your vision blurs slightly. You're almost there, you think. Then, just as you're considering laying down and letting a vulture take your soul, you hear it. Clang! The sound of chisel on stone. Loud, repetitive, maddening. You're here, the quarry. It's deeper than it looked. Wide, sunken, with workers already crawling across it like ants on a hot plate. You see scaffolds made of wood so dry it splinters when touched. You see ropes, pulleys, sledges. You see piles of limestone blocks, each one the size of a small coffin, and roughly the same weight as your hopes. You descend into the pit, slipping slightly on the dusty slope. It smells like dust and blood. You join your assigned station. The foreman points. You nod. You take your position beside the block. And just like that, the walk is over. The work begins. You look back, just for a second, at the shimmering heat waves rising off the desert behind you. That stretch of sand that chewed up your feet, burned your face, and erased all concept of hydration. You survived the walk, barely, but your day is just getting started. Chapter 4. Say hello to limestone. You've made it to the quarry. Congratulations. Your reward? You get to spend the next 12 hours in a pit, hacking, dragging, and hating limestone with every fibre of your sun-drenched, beer-hydrated being. At first glance, the quarry almost looks impressive. Rows of pale yellow rocks stretch in every direction, carved into half-finished blocks, as if the gods themselves had started building something and gave up halfway. The limestone here is the stuff of pyramids, literally. You are standing at the birthplace of every slab that will one day be stacked into a monument to someone else's eternal glory. You won't get credit. You might not even survive long enough to see your block make it to the ramp, but you're here now, and there's no way out that doesn't involve a miracle or a decent bribe, and you have neither. The first thing that hits you is the dust. Not regular dust, not the kind you brush off a table or sneeze away. This is fine, chalky, invasive powder that hangs in the air like a curse. It coats your skin, it clogs your nostrils, it gets into your eyes, your ears, your fingernails, and places you didn't even know could collect debris. Every breath feels like chewing sandpaper. Every blink grinds grit across your corneas. After 5 minutes, your eyelids are doing a slow, painful waltz with dehydration. Your job today is block shaping. Not glamorous, not dangerous enough to be exciting, just brutally boring, painfully physical labor. You pick up your copper chisel, a thin rod that looks more like a gardening tool than something meant for stone, and line it up against a block of limestone the size of a donkey cart. Then you raise your wooden mallet, take aim, and start hitting. Tap, tap, tap. The rhythm is hypnotic, and not in a fun Zen-like way. More in the sense that your brain will begin to drift while your body goes numb and your hands slowly vibrate into a state of permanent ache. You strike the chisel, reposition it, strike again. Tiny flakes chip off. Occasionally a decent chunk breaks loose and you feel a spark of false hope, but most of the time you're just rearranging molecules, one pointless thwack at a time. You work alongside a dozen others, all hunched over their own blocks, eyes narrowed, muscles tight. No one talks. There's nothing to say. You're all miserable. You all know it. And besides, talking kicks up more dust. After about 20 minutes, your arms are tired. After 30, your hands cramp. After 45, your lower back starts singing its favourite song, "You're going to die in this pit." It's catchy. You stop to wipe your forehead, which just moves the sweat around without actually helping. The sun is now higher, hotter, angrier. There is no shade. The limestone reflects heat like a mirror made of rage. Your skin burns, your scalp itches. You smell like boiled onions and regret. Occasionally someone shouts for more water. A boy, maybe 12, maybe just small, brings over a clay jug and pours out more warm, sludgy beer. You drink it. You try not to taste it. You hand it back and return to your post. The overseer walks by, stick in hand, scanning for slackers. You keep your head down. You don't need encouragement. Encouragement in this place usually comes with bruises. You go back to the rhythm. Chisel, mallet, chisel, mallet. Time becomes meaningless. Your brain turns to soup. You try to remember your old life, what you did before this job, how you ended up here. But the only thing you can recall clearly is your last bowl of barley porridge and the sound of a man vomiting behind the latrines yesterday. Eventually you're told to stop, not because your block is finished, but because it needs to be moved. You and 3 others are handed a rope, thick, coarse, fraying. You loop it under the block, grunt and lift, not really lifting, more like dragging. Your feet dig into the gravel as you haul the block across the quarry floor toward the sledges. Each inch feels like a mile. Your hands blister instantly. Your shoulders scream. Your knees wobble. The block resists every pull like it knows your body is not built for this and wants to see what breaks first. You drag it over to the sledge, basically a wooden platform designed to make gravity your enemy, and position it with the help of levers, shouts, and 2 miracles. Then you secure it with ropes and get ready to haul it again, this time toward the ramp that leads to the construction site. But that's not until later. For now, you're back to chiseling. Your block's replacement is smaller, easier, still heavier than a year's worth of bad decisions. You sit on your heels and start shaping again. The tool cuts less now. The edge is dull. You don't have a spare. You don't even have a sharpening stone. You spit on it. It doesn't help. Your hands are trembling now. Your fingers have gone numb in 2 places. You flex them. Something cracks. That's normal. You work through the pain, through the dust, through the knowledge that this block is one of thousands and that your effort today will be forgotten by the time the next dynasty rolls in. Midday arrives, you are soaked in sweat, your muscles are jelly, your brain has taken a vacation, you've got limestone splinters in your palm and a sunburn creeping down your neck, and you still have half the day left. Say hello to limestone. Say goodbye to your will to live. Chapter 5, Sweat, Sand and Supervision. It's late morning now. You've been in the quarry for hours, though you stopped counting around the time your spine made a sound like a tree branch snapping. You've sweated through your linen kilt, soaked your head wrap and wiped your brows so many times that your skin is raw from your own calloused hands. You're officially past the "this is hard" stage and now floating somewhere between "am I dead?" and "maybe I'm dreaming and the dream is hot, loud and full of rocks." But this is real, and it's about to get worse because now you've entered the next phase of your shift, full sun, full exhaustion and full supervision. Your overseer, a man whose voice is equal parts sandpaper and disappointment, has begun his rounds. He paces the edge of the pit like a buzzard in a linen tunic, watching for anyone who dares to slow down, slack off, or look like they're considering dying to get out of work. He carries a long staff carved with a symbol that probably means productivity, but may as well say pain distributor. When he approaches your section, everyone suddenly becomes twice as productive. Chisels strike harder, mallets swing faster, backs straighten, smiles appear out of nowhere, fake and strained, like someone just said the word promotion in a nightmare. He eyes your block, grunts something unintelligible, and moves on. You exhale through your nose because breathing through your mouth just invites more dust in. The sweat at this point is biblical. It's not just dripping, it's cascading. You are a waterfall of your own body fluids. Your skin is tacky, your tunic is glued to your ribs, and your thighs are chafing in ways you never thought possible. There's sand in your shoes, your belt, your ears. At some point it stopped being sand and became part of your body. You try to wipe your hands. They're already dirty. You try to rub the grit out of your eyes. You make it worse. You squint at your work. It doesn't help. Someone nearby groans. Another worker collapses to one knee. The overseer sees it and shouts, not words of encouragement, but something between a threat and a motivational curse. The man struggles back to his feet and resumes chipping at the limestone like he's being timed by a very angry god. At this point, you're not even shaping stone, you're just hitting it because it's in front of you and you don't know what else to do. Your chisel is dull, your mallet is splintering, your hands are so blistered you're not sure where your skin ends and your suffering begins. Still, you work, because if you stop, someone will notice, and if someone notices, you'll get reassigned to dung removal duty, or worse, you'll be sent to the ramp crew. You look over at the ramp. It's a long, cruel incline carved out of rock and reinforced with logs and sand. That's where the finished blocks go, to be hauled, dragged and shoved up toward the actual construction site. You can see the silhouettes of men crawling like ants, pushing sledges inch by inch up a slope that looks like it was designed by a sadistic geometry teacher. Nope, you're fine down here with the limestone and the dust, for now. The sun is directly overhead now. There's no shade. Not even a suggestion of it. The limestone reflects the sunlight back into your eyes, doubling your discomfort and cooking your skin like a forgotten piece of goat meat. You try to adjust your head wrap. It's soaked. Useless. Your scalp tingles under the heat, and you know that by evening you'll have a burn so bad your own sweat will sting. You drink again. The beer is hotter than before. At this point, it's less of a beverage and more of a punishment, but your body needs the calories, the liquid, the slight numbness that comes with fermentation. You sip, you hate it, you keep sipping. A colleague mutters something about quitting. Everyone laughs, not because it's funny, but because it's such a ridiculous concept that it loops back around into comedy. You don't quit pyramid work, you get rotated, you get sick, you get dragged out feet first, but quit? No, you keep chipping. A small rock flies off and hits you in the lip. You taste blood, you lick it off. You don't stop working. You move to another section and try to flip a smaller block for trimming. It refuses. You grunt, strain, slip and land on your side. Dust puffs up like the earth just sneezed. Your elbow throbs. Your dignity packs up and walks off. The overseer looks over. You scramble to your feet and pretend nothing happened. He turns away. You sigh and keep working. Someone in another section sings a short chant, a rhythm to work by. A few others pick it up. The song is low, almost mournful, more survival mantra than melody. It doesn't make the job easier, but it gives your mind something to grab onto while your body continues falling apart. You hum along, your mallet slips, the handle is too slick with sweat. It hits the stone wrong and rebounds into your wrist. You yelp, no one reacts. You shake it off and try again. The sun inches west. The air stays heavy. There's no relief, no breeze, no birds. Just the constant ringing of tools against rock, the occasional bark from the foreman, and the ever-present thought, why did I agree to this? You didn't, of course. You needed work. You were told pyramid building was honourable, stable, important, and it is, just not for you. Not in the way that means statues or hieroglyphs. You'll never be remembered. But the block you shaped, that'll still be here in 4,000 years. Which is equal parts impressive and depressing. You wipe your face again, you adjust your grip, you tap the chisel, you lift your mallet, and you keep going, because the only way out is through. Chapter 6. Tools of Pain. Let's talk tools, because if you thought working conditions were the worst part of pyramid building, just wait until you meet the tools designed to ruin your hands, your patience, and eventually your ability to hold anything heavier than regret. You've already spent hours hunched over a block of limestone, but now that the sun is fully overhead and your skin has turned into a damp canvas of dust and sunburn, it's time for the part of the day where your tools fight back. The first thing to understand is that the ancient Egyptians were clever, advanced, and resourceful, but they weren't kind. Their idea of construction equipment was copper, wood, twine, and the occasional miracle. And since you're not a miracle worker, you're left with three things: a dull blade, a warped mallet, and a prayer to a god that stopped listening around breakfast. Let's start with the copper chisel. It's long, thin, and bends just enough to make you question if it's made from actual metal or just a very stubborn piece of licorice. Copper is soft, too soft for limestone, really. You'd think after the first few attempts at slicing through rock with a glorified coin, someone would have said, "Hey, maybe we should try bronze." But no, it's copper, and it dulls faster than your enthusiasm. The edge lasts maybe 20 minutes on a good day. And you don't get a sharpener. You get a replacement only when the one you're using snaps or turns into a useless rod that makes a sad thunk every time it taps the stone. You could ask the toolmaster for a better one, but he'll just hand you something even worse and ask why you're not working faster. Then there's the mallet, a squat blocky hammer carved from tamarisk or acacia wood and jammed onto a stick that may or may not stay attached past noon. It's rough, splintered, poorly balanced. Every time you swing it, it either misses your mark or vibrates up your arm like you're being punished for being alive. And if the mallet head comes loose, you'd better catch it before it flies into someone's face, because that counts as a workplace incident, and you do not want to see the Egyptian HR department. Spoiler, it's just a guy with a stick and a bad attitude. Of course, you also have your hands, not technically a tool, but definitely treated like one. After half a day of gripping a mallet, your palms look like you tried to wrestle a porcupine. The blisters are constant, the calluses are thick, the skin around your knuckles splits open from dehydration and grime. And when you reach into your tunic for a rag to wipe the blood, you discover that said rag has been soaked in sweat since sunrise and now smells like fermented onions. Congratulations, you're officially a tool yourself. But wait, there's more. If you're on hauling duty today, you'll also be using ropes, not the sturdy climbing store variety. These are hand-twisted from papyrus or palm fibre dried in the sun and stretched to the point of snapping from overuse. They fray, they burn, they leave marks on your palms that don't fade for weeks. When the ropes snap under pressure, and they will, the resulting recoil has sent more than a few labourers face first into the side of a stone slab. There's also the lever, just a thick stick jammed under a block, elegant in concept, brutal in practice. You press, you push, you pray the fulcrum doesn't shift, and then you press again. Your legs tremble, your feet slide in the sand, and your reward, moving a 2-ton rock 5 inches. And let's not forget the sledges. These are crude platforms made from lashed-together logs greased with animal fat or water and pulled across wooden runners. It sounds simple, until you realize the friction is still high enough to make your shoulder blades feel like they're going to launch out of your back. The wood warps, the logs roll, the sled catches a bump, and you're suddenly face down in a mix of donkey poop, hot sand, and someone else's crushed dignity. Then there's the fire softening trick. Because limestone is stubborn, sometimes the foreman will order fires lit beneath the stone to heat it and then douse it with cold water to create thermal fractures. Sounds clever, right? Except you're the one lighting those fires. You're the one inhaling smoke. You're the one holding a water jar while being told to get closer by a man who's standing very far away. You burn your arms. You cough for hours. You pray the stone cracks clean. It doesn't. Eventually you're reassigned to sharpening tools. Finally, a break. Except sharpening involves grinding the dull edges of copper chisels on blocks of rough sandstone. Over and over and over. You kneel for hours. Your knees bruise. Your hands go numb. The dust gets in your mouth. You spit brown. You still haven't had lunch. And you're starting to wonder if you ever will. Another worker near you drops his mallet. It rolls down the slope. He watches it go. Just watches. You know the look. It's the look of a man who has briefly considered whether life in the afterworld might be easier. The toolmaster hands him another mallet. It's worse, always worse. At some point your chisel slips. Your hand slams into the block. You feel a pop in your thumb. You shake it off. There's no help coming. You wrap it in a strip of cloth from your tunic. You keep working. Because the only thing worse than pain is the look you'll get if you stop. You wonder how much of the pyramid is built from blocks cut by men with one working hand and a prayer to the gods of not being yelled at. And the tools, they just keep going. Every swing, every chip, every drag and haul and splinter and snap, each one carving a little more suffering into your already shredded body. So yes, ancient Egypt had tools, but none of them were your friend. Chapter 7. Midday. The sun hates you. It hits you gradually. First, the feeling that your breath is starting to heat up before it leaves your body. Then the blinding glare off the pale limestone. And then the unmistakable truth. No matter how bad the morning shift was, the real punishment starts now. It's midday in the quarry. This is the point where the sun stops playing around and decides to commit full-on murder. Shade doesn't exist. Clouds haven't been invented yet. Your only options are under the sun, or even more under the sun. You'd kill for a sliver of shadow, a breeze, or even a cloud that threatens to rain. But instead you get a sky so clear it's basically an accomplice. You try to stand still, hoping to catch your breath, but the heat wraps around your body like wet wool. You're drenched in sweat, but the air is so dry it immediately tries to rip the moisture right out of your skin. Your shirt is plastered to you, your head wrap is useless, and your eyelids have started sticking together between blinks. There's a reason the foreman stopped yelling around this time. It's not out of mercy, it's because even they are wilting under the heat. The overseer, who spent the whole morning barking orders, has now taken refuge behind a stack of stones, quietly sipping from his own waterskin like a man hiding in a trench. You hate him, but you also understand him. You glance around at the other workers. Some are hunched over, moving slower. Some have paused entirely, tools resting beside them, eyes squinting at the ground like they've just realized their job might kill them. One man is lying flat on his back with a rag draped over his face. He might be napping. He might be dead. No one's checking. The foreman sees this and gives a half-hearted shout. It echoes across the quarry like a dying goat. A few men grunt and go back to work. You drag yourself to your feet and lift your mallet again, but your arms feel like they're made of damp clay. You swing weakly. It hits with a hollow thud. The copper chisel barely leaves a mark. You pause, squinting at the stone. The air is shimmering now, heat rising in waves like invisible fire. It distorts everything, turning the edges of the quarry into a dreamscape of movement and mirage. You stare at the horizon and see water. Nope, just sand reflecting your desperate hopes back at you like a cruel joke. You take a sip of your beer water. It's hot now. Not room temperature, fire temperature. It tastes like barley and body odor, with just enough sourness to make you question whether it's still technically liquid. You drink anyway. Your stomach lurches, your mouth goes dry again immediately. This is how pyramid workers stayed hydrated, by drinking more than they sweat. Not because it worked, but because it was the only plan anyone had. You've already poured down half your water skin, but your lips are cracked and your tongue feels like it's been left out in the sun next to a dead frog. You try to work faster, you try to focus, but your body has other ideas. The skin on your neck is burning. Your back feels like someone laid a hot pan across it. Your arms twitch from overuse. You stop to stretch and your legs nearly buckle. You've officially entered the danger zone, the part of the day when people make stupid mistakes and pay for them in blood. You think about asking for a break, but there are no breaks, not officially. There's just the moments you steal for yourself. Moments where you pretend to adjust your rope or tie your sandal or rewrap your chisel handle just to crouch in the same spot for 30 precious seconds. That's your lunch break. And here it comes. You hear the horn. It's not loud, but it's enough. People stop working, slowly, reluctantly, like they're afraid it's a trick. You sit down in the dust, back against a half-shaped slab. You wipe your hands on your tunic. You don't bother with dignity anymore. Lunch is delivered in baskets carried by boys no older than 10. They move like shadows, dropping off food and leaving just as fast, trying not to breathe too hard or make eye contact with anyone. You reach for your ration. It's what you expected. More bread, more porridge. Warm, clumpy, dust-covered, perfect. You don't even chew. You just press it to the roof of your mouth and wait for it to dissolve. Someone offers you a chunk of dried onion. You trade for a smaller piece of bread. It's stale, but somehow better than the last one. You eat slowly, carefully. Talking takes too much energy. So you sit in silence, chewing as the sun continues to roast the top of your skull, and the limestone blocks start to feel soft under your body from pure heat distortion. Then you spot something. A man to your left is shaking, not dramatically, just enough that you notice. His eyes are half-lidded, and his mouth is hanging open. His fingers twitch as he tries to lift his bowl. He fails. The food spills into his lap. Someone calls for help. It takes a moment. 2 workers grab his arms and pull him to the side of the quarry. A third fans his face with a rag. Someone fetches more beer. They pour it into his mouth. He coughs. He doesn't wake. The foreman arrives and says something about the gods and weakness and how the sun tests us. Then he walks away. The man remains slumped against a rock, twitching slightly. That's what heat stroke looks like. You stare at him for a second too long. You wonder if you'll look like that next. You go back to your meal. There's nothing else to do. After lunch, which is more of an edible break from hallucination, you return to work. Everything is slower now. Your body is hot clay. Your vision swims every time you bend down. You think you've stopped sweating, but it's hard to tell with the dust sticking to your face like glue. The chisel handle keeps slipping from your grip, and your mallet feels heavier than it did this morning. Either it grew, or you shrank. Possibly both. You lift, you strike, again and again. The sun doesn't move. Time doesn't pass. You're trapped in a loop of heat and pain and white limestone that never ever ends. At one point you look up. You see a hawk circling above. Lucky bird. Can fly, can leave, can survive. You look down at your hands, covered in blisters, dust and dried beer, and you swing again because there's nothing else. Because this is your job. Because quitting is a word you barely remember the meaning of anymore. Chapter 8. The medical tent is worse. You knew this was going to happen. It started with a sharp sting in your wrist around mid-morning, somewhere between your 200th mallet swing and your third hallucination of a talking ibis. Then it crept up your arm. Now every time you try to grip your chisel, a jolt shoots through your hand like lightning made of broken glass and bad decisions. You finally drop the tool. Not because you're being lazy, but because your hand physically refuses to participate in this nightmare anymore. The pain is that sharp, that constant, that loud. A nearby worker notices your expression, nods knowingly and mutters, "Go to the tent." You hesitate. Not because you want to keep working, but because the tent has a reputation. You've heard the stories, everyone has. It's where you go when things are bad. Not broken limb bad, not gushing blood bad. Those cases go straight to the Nile or the priest, whichever is closer. No, the medical tent is for soft injuries. Sprains, fevers, blisters so raw your sandals look like crime scenes. It's for infections, toothaches, and the occasional man who got too close to a pulley and lost a chunk of something important. You make your way there anyway, staggering, sweating, praying to every god you can name along the way. The tent is made from sun-bleached linen stretched over a wooden frame. It sags like it's tired of existing. Flaps hang limply in the breeze, offering the illusion of privacy and zero actual comfort. The ground around it is stained with dust, blood, and what you hope is wine. Inside it smells like heat, herbs, and human failure. A man in a long white robe sits cross-legged in the center of the tent. He's supposed to be the physician. He doesn't look like one. His hair is unkempt, his eyes are tired. He has a basket of tools beside him, dull blades, wooden tweezers, bundles of reeds, and a jar of honey with a layer of something floating on top. He looks up at you, says nothing, just gestures. You sit, you show him your hand. He squints at it, pokes it with a twig, then mutters something under his breath. You recognize a few words: heat, tendon, maybe cursed. You're not sure which diagnosis to worry about more. He stands up, rummages through a wooden crate and returns with a handful of supplies, a wad of linen, a lump of clay, and a very small bowl of greenish-black paste. You try to ask what it is. He answers with a smile. You do not feel better. First, he takes the paste and slathers it across your wrist. It's cold, which is nice, until the smell hits. It's a mix of crushed onions, mouldy herbs, and something that might have once been garlic. Your eyes water. You breathe through your mouth, and instantly regret that too. Then comes the linen. He wraps it tight, too tight. The kind of tight that makes your fingers tingle in a bad way. You try to complain. He shushes you like you're a fussy toddler. You shut up. Next, he picks up the clay. It's warm. He slaps it on your elbow, presses it down like he's making pottery out of your misery, then mutters something about pulling out the evil. You're not a doctor, but you're pretty sure the only thing being pulled out is your will to live. Then the priest shows up. Yes, there's a priest. Because in ancient Egypt, medicine and religion are basically roommates. He walks in with a censer full of smoking herbs and starts chanting. You don't know the words. You don't care. You just hope this is the part where they give you wine. It isn't. Instead, he places a carved amulet on your forehead and tells you the gods are watching. You hope they're watching someone else. The physician returns. He's holding something sharp. Your heart skips. He explains, in the gentlest tone possible, that the swelling might need to be released. You ask what that means. He doesn't answer. He just grabs your arm, pinches the skin, and starts cutting. You scream. Everyone ignores it. To them, this is Tuesday. He scrapes, he presses, he mutters. Blood drips. The priest says a prayer. You nearly pass out. When he's finished, he smears honey on the wound and wraps it again with fresh linen. You're now sticky, bleeding, bandaged, and deeply traumatized. You're also still expected to go back to work. You look at him with pleading eyes. You ask, nicely, humbly, if you can rest for a while. He says yes, then hands you a broom and tells you to sweep out the tent, because here even the injured don't get to stop moving. You sweep. Slowly, each motion sends a pulse of pain up your arm. You grit your teeth and keep going. Outside, the sun is still blazing. The mallets are still swinging. The dust still rises. Inside, you shuffle through the filth of everyone else's bad day. Eventually, the physician waves you off. You limp back toward the quarry. You think about your injury. It's still pulsing, still stiff. It might be better, or it might get worse. You try not to think about what worse looks like. You pass another worker on the way out, his hand wrapped, his eyes glassy, his shirt stained with something that isn't all his. He nods. You nod back, no words, just shared pain. You return to your station, your chisel is waiting, so is your mallet, so is the limestone. You pick them up with your good hand, you get back to work, because no matter what happens in the tent, the pyramid doesn't care. It still has to be built, and you're still the one who has to build it. Chapter 9. Eat again, sadly. You've survived another afternoon shift, more or less. Your wrist is bandaged, your clothes are stiff with dried sweat, and your body is holding together through a toxic mix of muscle memory, barley beer, and blind obligation. The sun is finally crawling down the sky, dragging the day with it like a dying ox. And with it comes the next monumental task of the pyramid worker's routine: dinner. Or, more accurately, the second edible insult of the day. You don't head to a dining hall. There is no hall. There are no tables, no benches, no cutlery. Dinner happens in the same sun-baked clearing where you had breakfast, which was less of a meal and more of a bad dream in food form. The workers drift in slowly, in silence, like ghosts with sunburns. Everyone is limping, dragging, coughing, or too tired to speak. You can see it in their faces. Today broke something. Maybe it was the heat. Maybe it was the splintered mallet. Maybe it was the guy who passed out mid-haul and hasn't been seen since noon. No one asks. No one mentions it. You take your place on the ground because sitting on rocks is somehow worse than sitting on the floor. There's dust everywhere. You gave up trying to brush it off hours ago. You're so coated in it you'd have to chisel your tunic off if you ever wanted to change. Not that you have a second tunic. The food arrives in baskets again. This time it's delivered by older boys and a few overworked kitchen labourers who look just as miserable as you do. No one smiles. No one even makes eye contact. They just plop a bowl of something in front of you and move on. You look down. It's barley porridge again. You don't ask what's in it. You already know: barley, water, onion scraps, maybe lentils, maybe not. It's a tan lump in a clay bowl that radiates exactly zero comfort. You poke it with your finger, it wobbles, you sigh. You eat it anyway. The first bite is exactly what you expect: lukewarm, gritty, and weirdly sweet in a way that suggests the beer got into it by accident. You chew slowly, very slowly, not because you're savouring it, but because you physically can't chew any faster without risking the last few teeth you still have. The sand in the flour has already eroded your molars into sad little stumps. Every bite feels like testing fate. You take a swig of your beer. It's still warm, it's still foamy, it still tastes like someone strained it through a basket of armpits. You drink it anyway, because without it you'll be dehydrated by sunrise. Around you the sounds of dinner echo like a shared funeral. Slurping, coughing, the occasional groan. No one talks. What is there to say? The only update anyone cares about is whether the kitchen managed to find any garlic this week. They didn't. You can taste it not being there. A fly lands on your leg, you let it stay, you don't have the energy to swat it, you glance to your left. A man is staring at his bowl like it's accused him of something. He takes a bite, then another, his eyes don't move. You recognize the look. That's someone deep into the 5 stages of barley grief. A voice from behind you grumbles something about fresh fish tomorrow. Everyone within earshot laughs, dry, raspy, broken laughter that ends in a cough. There's no fish, there was never fish. If anything swam past this place, it probably turned around and died out of spite. You scrape the bowl. You chew a tough chunk that might be root vegetable or might be leather. You can't tell. You don't want to know. Then, as always, comes the worst part. Realizing that this isn't your last meal here. This isn't a one-off. This is every night. You'll be eating the same thing tomorrow. And the next day. And the day after that. Until your stomach forgets what flavor is, your jaw develops permanent resistance to chewing, and your soul adapts to a life where hope is measured in onions. You used to have favorite foods. You remember that vaguely. Something roasted, something with herbs, maybe honey, maybe goat. Now, your idea of luxury is when the porridge doesn't have pebbles in it. Someone nearby burps loudly. A few others follow. It's not rude, it's almost celebratory. A sign that your body hasn't shut down completely. Another man tosses his bowl aside and lies flat on his back, arms sprawled in the dirt. He says nothing, just stares at the fading sky like he's praying to Ra for a rainstorm or a lightning bolt or death. The wind picks up slightly. It doesn't cool you, it just moves the heat around. Dinner ends not with a signal, but with a collective decision to stop pretending this helps. One by one, workers rise. Some carry their bowls back to the tent, others leave them behind. One man vomits quietly in a ditch, wipes his mouth and walks away like nothing happened. You remain seated a little longer, not because you're enjoying yourself, but because getting up feels like asking too much of your body right now. Your joints creak, your back pulses, your left ankle is doing something weird. Eventually you stand, slowly, carefully, painfully. You hobble toward your sleeping quarters. A sun-dried hut made of mud brick and crushed ambition. You step over a puddle of something suspicious, duck through the entrance and collapse onto your mat. It's stiff, it smells, it's home. Your stomach gurgles, you ignore it. You're not hungry anymore, not exactly, just sad. You lie still. The room is dark. A few others are already asleep. One man snores like a dying ox. Another is whispering something to himself, maybe a prayer, maybe a list of injuries. Outside, the sounds of camp life fade. Footsteps, buckets clanking, a distant argument about who's stealing someone's onions. You close your eyes. The porridge still lingers on your tongue. You swallow. You wish you hadn't. Chapter 10. Back to the ramps. Sleep didn't help. You lay on your back all night, barely shifting, stuck between two other workers who snored like war drums. The straw mat felt like gravel. Your arm ached. Your legs twitched. Your stomach churned from barley porridge that felt more like wet cardboard the second time around. When morning came, it didn't feel like a new day. It felt like the continuation of a long, slow punishment. And now you've been reassigned. No more chiseling, no more stone shaping in the semi-sheltered quarry. Today you're headed to the ramps. And that means pain, the kind that doesn't make noise, the kind that sinks deep into your bones and settles in for the long haul. The ramps are the artery that feeds the construction site. Every stone, every tool, every broken man gets hauled up them. They stretch from the base of the pyramid site to the upper levels, long wooden paths packed with sand, soaked in sweat and covered in grooves from sledges and ropes and footprints of the hundreds who've dragged their weight over them. You've seen them from a distance. Today you meet them face to face. The ramp is long, not long like a hallway. Long like a hill that forgot how to stop climbing. It rises steadily, just steep enough to make you curse physics, gravity, and the gods in one breath. On either side are wooden railings, half rotted, splintered, sometimes missing entirely. The whole structure creaks under the weight of the stones it carries. It groans with every footstep. It looks like it could collapse. It doesn't. Somehow. You're part of a 6-man hauling team today. Congratulations. You are now 1/6 of the effort required to drag a 2-ton slab of limestone up a ramp that hates you. The block sits at the bottom, already loaded onto a wooden sledge. It's strapped down with rope that looks like it was made by someone who'd never seen a rope before. Your job? Pull. That's it. Pull until it's at the top. Don't ask questions. Don't take breaks. Don't collapse. And if the rope snaps or the sledge tips or the block shifts mid-pull, don't die. Preferably, you grip the rope. It's already damp, already rough. You wrap it around your shoulder like the others do. You glance sideways. They nod. No words. Just mutual understanding that this is going to be terrible. The foreman gives the signal. You pull. The first foot is easy. Momentum. Optimism. Team spirit. The second foot punches you in the kidneys. The block jerks. The rope tightens. Your shoulder screams. Your foot slips. You recover. You pull again. Now it's less pull and more survive. The sledge groans against the ramp, dragging through the sand like a reluctant corpse. Every inch is a war. You lean your full weight into the rope. Your sandals dig into the packed earth. You can feel the fibers fray with every tug. You're not hauling stone. You're hauling despair. The man in front of you coughs. The one behind you grunts. The block jerks again. One of the runners caught a knot in the wood. The whole thing lurches sideways. You all stop. You adjust. You curse in unison, then you pull again. This continues for hours. The ramp stretches on endlessly. Sweat pours into your eyes. Your shoulders are numb. Your fingers are starting to lose feeling. You try to shift your grip. Bad idea. You get a rope burn that makes you bite your lip hard enough to taste blood. You pull anyway. You're halfway up. The worst place to be. Too far to go back. Too much pain to look forward. You pause. Water break. The water is beer again. You barely taste it. You drink it like medicine. You splash some on your face. It stings. You breathe deep, gag a little, then lean back into the rope. Someone slips. The block tilts. The team surges to rebalance it. The front guy shouts. The rear guy groans. You nearly lose your footing, but hold. Barely. There's no talking anymore, only breathing, coughing, grunting, praying. The block creeps upward. The sun is baking the back of your neck. Your tunic is soaked. You're certain you've lost a layer of skin on your palms. One man loses his grip entirely and drops to his knees. You all stop. You wait for him to get up. He does, slowly. You start again. The top is in sight now, sort of. You've reached the final incline, the part where the ramp gets just steep enough to turn every step into an act of war. You dig in, you pull with your legs, your arms, your spine, your jaw. You feel every tendon scream. You feel something pop in your ankle. You ignore it. The sledge jerks again. This time it groans like it might give out. The ropes tighten. You pray they hold. They do. You keep pulling, step by step. Inch by inch. Someone is shouting encouragement now. Not the foreman, another worker. It doesn't help, but at least it's not yelling. And then, suddenly, you're there. The top. You stop. You drop the rope. You collapse. Not gracefully, not dramatically, just down. Onto your knees. Then onto your side. Then onto the ground. Your heart is trying to leave your body. Your arms are twitching. Your lungs feel like they're coated in sand. You can't feel your fingers. You don't care. You stare at the sky. It's still blue, still clear, still the color of disappointment. The block rests safely at the top. It won't thank you. It won't remember you. But it's there. And somehow so are you. One of the men hands you a chunk of bread. You don't ask where it came from. You eat it, dry, stale, perfect. You sit in silence. Then you stand. Because there's another block waiting at the bottom. Chapter 11. Nightfall and Blisters. The sun is finally setting. It dips low behind the dunes, like it's clocking out early and leaving you to deal with the mess. The sky bleeds orange and red. One of those sunsets that in any other life might have felt peaceful or even beautiful. Here, it just looks like a warning. You're done hauling blocks up the ramp for now. Your arms are shaking. Your knees click with every step. And your hands, oh, your hands. They're a disaster. Blisters have bloomed into open sores. Your palms are raw, torn, and stuck in a permanent claw shape from holding rope for 10 straight hours. You try to flex your fingers. Bad idea. The skin cracks. You wince. A few others around you are wrapping rags around their hands. Some gave up and are just walking with their fingers outstretched, like they're hoping the night air will do them a kindness. It won't. There's no bandages left in the medical tent. You already checked. They're out. Which means everyone's bleeding into reused linen or just letting the wounds dry and hoping for the best. You make your way back to the worker camp. Slowly. Every step is a negotiation between your brain and your feet. The sand has cooled, but the air is still thick with heat that's been baking into every surface since dawn. You pass other workers limping, dragging their tools, not speaking. The silence is deep now, not reverent, just exhausted. You reach the edge of camp. The fires are lit. Small ones, controlled ones, flickering inside makeshift hearths or cooking pits. The smell of barley and onion hangs in the air again, but fainter now. Dinner is already over. You missed it. You're not even mad. You're just too tired to care. You collapse onto your mat. It's hard. It smells like yesterday's sweat. You lie on your side to avoid putting pressure on your hands. It doesn't help. Your whole body pulses in slow, dull waves of ache. You try to close your eyes. A man near you is moaning softly. You glance over. His foot is wrapped in something that used to be white. It's now brown. He's trying to sleep, but every shift makes him wince. No one offers help. Everyone's too far gone. Someone else sneezes violently into the corner of the room. A moment later, they start coughing. Deep, rattling. You don't even turn your head. You just pray it doesn't spread. You stare at the wall, mud brick, cracked. One side of the roof is sagging. A spider crawls across the ceiling. You watch it. It seems busy. It seems like it has a plan. You envy it. Outside, the camp is starting to quiet down. The kitchen fires go out. The last of the carts are being dragged into storage. Somewhere near the supply tent, someone's arguing, probably about tools or missing food. You don't have the energy to care. You roll onto your back and stare at the night sky. It's clearer now. The stars are out. Dozens of them. Hundreds, maybe thousands. It's hard to count when your eyes keep trying to close against your will. You wonder what your family is doing right now, or if they even remember you. You wonder how many days it's been. You wonder how many more you can take. Your blisters throb. Your stomach grumbles, but not loudly. It's almost polite about it, like it knows food is a sore subject. You sit up. Slowly, every muscle screams. You hobble outside and make your way toward the washing basin. Just a shallow clay bowl full of lukewarm water and crushed hope. You dip your hands in. The sting is immediate. You inhale sharply. You don't scream. You just let it happen. The water turns cloudy. You think it's blood or dirt or both. You dry your hands with a corner of your tunic. You regret it instantly. The fabric scrapes across the skin like sandpaper soaked in vinegar. You return to your mat. You lie down. This time, you don't even try to sleep right away. You just let your body settle. Your breath slows. You feel everything, your back, your shoulders, your feet, your hands, registering their complaints all at once. And beneath it all, one single inescapable thought. You have to do it again tomorrow. The same porridge, the same heat, the same chisel, the same ramp. Nothing will change. You close your eyes, you pray for rain or an earthquake, or maybe just a really convincing dream about not existing. You drift, and somewhere someone starts snoring. Of course they do. Chapter 12. Sleep. Kinda it's nighttime, or at least the sun's gone. That's about as close to night as you're going to get. The desert doesn't go silent. It just gets quieter in a way that makes the small sounds louder. The shuffle of dry feet, the low grunt of someone turning over on a straw mat, the wheeze of a man who worked too hard and breathed in too much limestone dust. You're lying flat on your back. Your mat is a flattened pile of reeds that lost its ability to provide comfort sometime last decade. It doesn't feel soft. It doesn't feel supportive. It feels like sleeping on a dried-up basket someone tried to pass off as a bed. And this is the rest part of your day. You stare up at the low ceiling. It's made of mud brick and packed with palm thatch, which rustles occasionally like something's crawling in it. Probably because something is crawling in it. You've already accepted that. There's no pillow. Your tunic is your pillow now, bunched into something vaguely cushion-like and damp, with the sweat of 12 hours under the Egyptian sun. You know it smells. You don't care. Your face stopped registering smells around lunchtime. Your limbs are sore in that deep, permanent kind of way, like they've been marinated in suffering. You don't feel tired. You feel broken in a quiet, long-term sense. The kind that suggests maybe your bones are considering retirement without informing the rest of your body. Around you, other workers are shifting. A few are already asleep, deep, mouth open, drool on the floor kind of sleep. Others are still trying to get comfortable. One man near the wall keeps scratching. Probably lice, or fleas, or both. You try not to think about the fleas, but you feel them. Tiny little itches, just enough to be real, just enough to drive you slightly insane. You scratch your arm. It helps for a second. Then the itching moves to your leg. Then you're back. You give up. Someone lets out a long sigh nearby. It sounds like despair or indigestion, possibly both. You close your eyes and then open them again, because sleep isn't guaranteed. It's a process. First comes the part where your body has to cool down. You've been sweating for 12 hours straight. Your skin is still radiating heat like a kiln. The air outside might be cool, but your body doesn't believe that yet. It's still trying to offload all the heat it stored during the day. Your clothes are damp, your mat is damp, your soul is damp. You roll over. Bad idea. Your elbow lands on a reed that snaps and jabs your ribs. You roll back. Worse idea. Now your back is sticking to the mat. You stay still. You breathe. You try to think of something peaceful. A river, a breeze, something soft. You remember the beer from earlier. It tasted like hot sweat. You try again. You remember your family, your village, the sound of animals in the morning, your mother's bread. You think about bread a lot these days. You remember how soft it used to be. You remember what soft used to mean. Something brushes your foot. You freeze. You wait. Nothing. You hope it was a blanket. You hope it was your own foot. You don't check. You try to sleep again. Your body is ready. Your brain isn't. Because even though you're lying down, even though your muscles have stopped moving, your mind is still hauling blocks, still swinging a mallet, still counting steps up the ramp. You're reliving it all in perfect detail. The heat, the sound, the pain. It plays on repeat. Eventually your thoughts start to blur. That's when you know sleep is creeping in, not rushing, creeping like a thief or a lazy cat. You fall into it like someone slipping into a pond fully clothed, slowly, awkwardly, and not entirely by choice. But it doesn't last, because a noise jerks you back. Footsteps. You hear someone walking outside the hut, probably a guard, or a worker getting water, or someone who couldn't sleep and is now pacing because it's either that or scratching holes into their own skin. You listen. The footsteps fade. You try again. Sleep comes back, hesitant, untrusting. This time it stays a little longer. You start to dream. Sort of. Your dreams aren't dreams anymore, they're echoes. You see a rope, a ramp, the sun, a block of stone. You're pulling it, your arms burn, your feet slide, you fall. You jerk awake, your heart races. It was a dream, but your body doesn't believe it. Your hands are clenched, your jaw aches, your legs twitch. You lie there, blinking, listening to the sounds of men who didn't wake up screaming. You're jealous. You close your eyes again. Eventually, sleep returns. It's shallow, thin, full of interruptions. It's not rest, it's just temporary unconsciousness, and even that is fragile, because in a few hours the horn will blow, the camp will stir, the foreman will yell, and you'll wake up feeling like you never slept at all, because this is pyramid work, this is your life now, and the cycle never ends. So you made it, sort of. You hauled stone in the heat, drank warm beer for hydration, shaped rock with tools that hated you, and ended the day covered in dust, blisters, and possibly fleas. You limped through another meal of sadness porridge, curled up on a straw mat that smells like regret, and managed to fall asleep just long enough to dream about more work. And here's the thing, this wasn't some historical worst-case scenario. This was normal. A regular day for a pyramid builder. No collapsing ramps, no sudden invasions, no divine curses, just the daily grind of dragging the pharaoh's legacy up a ramp with your bare hands. Because yes, the pyramids are breathtaking. But behind every block was someone like you, someone with sore knees, a sunburned face, and a constant craving for literally any other job. So the next time you see those towering monuments and wonder how they were built, remember this: not with alien technology, not with secret engineering tricks, but with bone-deep exhaustion and the sheer willpower of tens of thousands of laborers just trying to make it to bedtime. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this historical suffering, go ahead and like the video, subscribe for more brutally honest history, and drop a comment telling us exactly which part of this day would have broken you. Spoiler, it's the beer for breakfast. Until next time, stay hydrated, count your blessings, and thank your mattress.